Hi, I'm Tim Tyler, and this is a video entitled "The Patron Saint of Memetics is a Reluctant Apostle." So, who is the patron saint of Memetics? I can be referring to none other than this man, Richard Dawkins. Richard is the man who came up with the concept of the meme in the first place. So, Richard's doubts first showed themselves in this book, The Extended Phenotype. So, to quote a brief section from that, he describes some of the points of disanalogy between DNA-based evolution and cultural evolution, and then writes, "These differences may prove sufficient to render the analogy with genetic natural selection worthless or even positively misleading. My own feeling is that its main value may lie not so much in helping us to understand human culture as in sharpening our perception of genetic natural selection. This is the only reason I am presumptuous enough to discuss it, for I do not know enough about existing literature on human culture to make an authoritative contribution to it." So, Richard is showing signs of extreme modesty there, it seems to me. Next of all, here is one of his lectures in which he expresses his views in more detail.
Dan Dennett's already referred to memes. This is not something that I've ever wanted to push as a theory of human culture, but I originally proposed it as a kind of almost an anti-gene point, to make the point that Darwinism requires accurate replicators with phenotypic power, but they don't necessarily have to be genes. What if they were computer viruses? They hadn't been invented when I wrote The Selfish Gene, so I went straight for memes, units of cultural inheritance.
Richard Dawkins was also not very positive in the Slate magazine, where he wrote, "My enthusiasm for it was never as a contribution to the study of human culture. It was always intended to be a way of dramatising the idea that a Darwinian replicator doesn't have to be a gene. It can be a computer virus or a meme. The point is that a good replicator is just a replicator that spreads regardless of its material form." And another place where Dawkins wasn't very enthusiastic is where he's quoted in this book. So, page 229, Dawkins says, "I am not going to utter the M word. Everybody else keeps saying it and then looking at me, and I am going to duck out of that. I used not to think this, but I am increasingly thinking that nothing but confusion arises from confounding genetic evolution with cultural evolution, unless you are very careful about what you are doing and don't talk as though they are somehow just different aspects of the same phenomenon. Or, if they are just different aspects of the same phenomenon, then let's hear a good case for regarding them as such." Well, I think cultural evolution and DNA evolution are different aspects of the same phenomenon. The idea is that both cultural and DNA evolution have the concept of inheritance. They both have inherited information which varies, and they both have selection, where some types of heritable information do better at getting into the next generation than other types. And also both exhibit adaptation. There's goodness of fit between biological structures, and also goodness of fit in cultural evolution. So a glove fits onto a hand, for example. That's an example of goodness of fit. Also, in cultural evolution, you have a gradual rise in adapted complexity over time, and you see a similar thing in Darwinian evolution. Creatures start off small, tiny creatures, and then they gradually grow and become more complex. So that's the basic case for cultural evolution and biological evolution being the same phenomenon, or different aspects of the same phenomenon. Also, another way of looking at it is that cultural evolution is a more advanced type of evolution than the old sort of evolution that's in the biology textbooks. Evolution progresses by inventing increasingly complex ways of generating variation and causing selection. So in the beginning there was no sex, and then we have sex and multicellularity and cooperative structures, altruism, and then after a while social structures, and then engineering and genetic engineering and intelligent design, and so that's kind of a ladder of sophistication in the evolutionary process. And the old type of DNA selection that we're familiar with from biological textbooks on evolution, that's the kind of preceding step on the ladder to cultural evolution, which uses intelligent design. It uses other kinds of search procedures besides Darwinian ones, so it can use exhaustive search, random search, stochastic search algorithms such as simulated annealing, the whole range of different search algorithms, not just Darwinian random mutations and selection style based ones, and also in induction and deduction, so a variety of different mechanisms that have now become available to the evolutionary process. So another step on the ladder, leading away from primitive simplicity. I shouldn't need to be explaining all that though. This is Richard Dawkins. He came up with the whole idea of the meme in the first place, so I'd encourage Richard to be a little bit more positive about cultural evolution. Enjoy.